Hey friend, if you are planning a trip to Grand Canyon National Park, then here are 5 things that you'll definitely want to know before you go. My name is Ash. I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes, and today I have some tips for you for your upcoming Grand Canyon vacation. There's some things that you'll want to know before you go. There's some things that I can tell you before you go that will make your trip even better. And so let's dig in and talk about these things that you'll definitely want to know before visiting this park. The first thing you need to know before visiting Grand Canyon National Park is that this national park is extremely crowded. So you may have heard this, but even according to the national park statistics, this park is the second most visited park in the nation at almost 5 million visitors per year. Now, a lot of those visitors do come into the park, see the canyon, and then leave. And so there are some areas of the park that are just extremely congested, all the time. And then there's some areas that you can go to that are a little bit more off the beaten path that not as many people know about or have time to see. And so managing the crowding is actually not too hard if you have a really good plan and if you know when to be where. So the timing in this park really is everything. What I mean by this is that it really matters what times you're trying to go through the entrance stations, what times you're trying to catch the shuttles, where you stay, when you walk versus taking the shuttle versus driving. All those things will really play into how crowded this park feels for you. And there are some things in there that you can control. I mean, you can't control how busy the park is, but you can control the timing of your visit and when to be where. And that's what really is going to set your trip apart from other people's and help you to actually find solitude while you're here at the Grand Canyon. To get some extra help with this, I do have a fully planned out itinerary on the Dirt in My Shoes website. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, and 5 days. If you're just hitting the South Rim and the North Rim, you'll need a little bit more time to go up there. And so I do have fully planned out itineraries if you want help with the timing in this park. I will say that if you're just planning on seeing the Grand Canyon, you don't really want to dig in, you don't want to spend a lot of time there, then you will just be able to show up and kind of navigate through the crowds and just expect crowding. But if you're really wanting to dig into the park, which is what we do here at Dirt in My Shoes, is make sure that you can see all the best things in the park at the best times, then you will definitely want a good plan, and you'll want to give yourself a couple of days because this park is huge. There's so much you can do, and it's really my goal to help you explore it to the fullest. So that being said, the second thing that you'll definitely want to know before you go is that Grand Canyon National Park is actually made out of 2 different rims, 2 different areas. So we've got the North Rim and the South Rim. And while the North and South Rims aren't very far apart, as far as when you're standing on one, you can see the other, it takes about 4 hours to drive between the 2 because you have to drive around the Grand Canyon. And so the national park itself is really big and you have 2 different sections to explore. So let's take a look at the map of the Grand Canyon area real quick. This is a very detailed map that they have on their website. That's kind of hard to read, but basically we have the Grand Canyon National Park area just right down here. And you'll see right here, we have the North Rim, and down here, this is the South Rim. The Grand Canyon Village and Desert View are both part of the South Rim area of the park. And so because both of these areas are encompassed in the national park, you may want to visit both. But again, you'll want to be aware that the North Rim here is a 4-hour drive to the South Rim. And so what you have to do is you have to go out here to Jacob Lake and around and down all the way down here to Cameron, and then cut in over to Desert View, and then cut over to get to the Grand Canyon Village area. So it is a really long drive, and that's why you'll really want to pay attention to which rim you're wanting to visit as you're planning your trip, because you don't want to plan for things at the North Rim without anticipating and making sure that you have time to make the drive all the way out there. This affects you as you're planning your trip because you want to make sure that you choose the area that you most want to see. Or give yourself enough time to see both. Because they are separated by quite a drive, then you will need multiple days if you're hoping to see both the North and the South Rims. And so to talk you through kind of which rim may be of interest to you, let's start with the North Rim. So the North Rim is much more remote. It is harder to get to. It's not as close to major population centers. You're quite far out from any like stores, groceries, anything like that. But what you get at the North Rim that you really don't get at the South Rim is just a lot more peace and quiet. And so many people just totally overlook the North Rim. They don't even visit the North Rim. And so it does stay a lot quieter. There is less to do here, and you're at a higher elevation. And so the weather is different. It gets much colder here. It actually is not open year round because there is a lot of snow during the winter and they don't plow those roads. And so if you're wanting to visit the North Rim, expect lots of solitude, expect some really cool things to do, but not like a ton of stuff to do. And then expect to visit between May 15th and December 1st when that road is open. The main part of Grand Canyon National Park, where pretty much everybody goes, is the South Rim. So the South Rim just has a lot of amenities. There's a ton of hotels, restaurants. You're just outside of Tusayan, which is the town right there that you can also go into to get groceries and things like that. You're not very far from Flagstaff, so a lot of people day trip up from Flagstaff. And so this side of the park really stays super busy most of the time. What is so nice about the South Rim, though, is there is a lot to do. This is where a lot of the main hiking trails are. This is where you'll just have a plethora of viewpoints to go explore. This is where you've got a bunch of visitor centers, ranger programs, hiking trails, all sorts of stuff to do here. So while the South Rim does stay really busy, there's just a ton to do, and there are some opportunities for spreading out. The other nice thing about the South Rim is that it is open year round. It does get snow sometimes, but again, it's about 1,000 feet lower in elevation than the North Rim. And so the weather just stays a little bit nicer year round. You're not dealing with as much winter weather, though it does happen for sure. So if you plan on going to the Grand Canyon during the off season, if you want to be there from like December through February or so, which is typically the off season at the Grand Canyon, then you can go to the South Rim, but just expect to have some varying temperatures and weather patterns. If you're at the top of the canyon, it's going to be a lot colder than if you're hiking down into it. And so those will be some things that you'll want to think about as you're planning your trip. Both rims are fantastic. I love them both for different reasons. If you only have time to go to one and you've never been to the Grand Canyon before, I would personally start with the South Rim. There's just more to do and you'll see more. But if you're really looking for that peace and solitude, if you're wanting to get away from the crowds, adding in a day or two at the North Rim will not disappoint. It's absolutely beautiful. That leads me into the third thing that you'll want to know about visiting the Grand Canyon, which is that if you're wanting to visit this national park year-round, then you will want to plan your trip for the South Rim instead of the North Rim. And the South Rim, so it's really interesting. As I said before, it is open year-round, but you do have some differing weather and things. You will hit winter weather sometimes during those winter months. Road closures happen, things like that. And so you'll want to be prepared for some weather if you're going in the off season. But what's really nice is all the hotels are open, the restaurants are open, the shuttle bus, some of the lines do run, and so you'll be able to take that to some areas. If you plan on hiking, you'll definitely want some spikes or yak tracks to put on your shoes if you're planning on hiking, especially up closer to the rim up at the top and starting to head down into the canyon. It can get really, really icy in that area. So if you are planning on visiting the park in the off season, which I highly, highly recommend, actually, it's a great way to lose the crowds and get some peaceful views and just really soak in the scenery of the Grand Canyon during a really nice time of year. But you will want to come prepared with certain things. As you're trying to decide what time of year you want to visit the Grand Canyon, definitely pull up the best time to visit article on Dirt in My Shoes. I will link it below this video. But this article walks you through month by month what to expect, temperatures, crowd levels, activities, what's open, what's closed. All of that is here month by month on Dirt in My Shoes. If you plan on visiting the park during the main season, expect really hot temperatures. It can get really hot up at the rims during the summer, but what's crazy is it's like a 20-degree difference between the top of the rim and the bottom of the canyon. And so if you plan on doing any hiking into the canyon at all, then you want to prepare for even hotter temperatures in the inner canyon than you'll find at the rims. So a lot of people are surprised by that. When you get to the Grand Canyon during the summer, it could easily be 90 degrees at the rim and 110 to 115. I've seen it get even hotter down there in the inner canyon for some of those hikes. So keep that in mind. But again, the best time to visit article on Dirt in My Shoes will help you really hone in what time is going to work best for you and what to expect during that time. Number 4, you will need to book your lodging well in advance for this park. So as I mentioned, Grand Canyon is the second busiest national park in the nation. So many people want to visit here. There are a lot of lodging options, especially at the South Rim, but they do get snatched up really fast. And so that's something that you'll definitely want to plan for as you're getting ready to take this trip, as you're in the planning process, is to start planning your lodging as soon as possible so that you can get in there and make those reservations before everything gets snatched up. So for the North Rim has one lodge, the North Rim Lodge, and it does get booked up really fast. And then there is a campground there as well. And so the lodge is typically 13 months in advance. You'll want to make that reservation. The campground is 6 months. There's not a lot just outside of the North Rim area of the park. So if you go out a little ways, there's like the Kaibab Lodge and the DeMont Campground. Those are a few options. You have to drive about an hour outside of the North Rim to get to another hotel, which is in Jacob Lake. And I highly recommend not going out that far if you don't have to. Definitely try to get closer to the North Rim activities so that you're not spending a ton of time in your car just driving to the North Rim. For the South Rim, there are a lot of lodges right there in Grand Canyon Village. You can stay right there on the rim, which is incredible. Absolutely beautiful views. A lot of the hotels are just right there within walking distance of most of the main activities that you're going to want to do at the South Rim. So those are really nice. The only thing is they book up, again, about 13 months in advance. Sometimes you can go in and you can get someone's cancellation, especially as it gets closer to the dates of your trip. And so I would definitely watch for those, but do get on there and try to make those reservations as quickly as possible so that you have the best chance to get what you want. The South Rim does have a few campgrounds as well. So you've got Mather Campground and Trailer Village right there in the Grand Canyon Village area. And then you've got Desert View, which is about a 45-minute drive outside of the main area in the South Rim, the Grand Canyon Village area. So those are options as well. Those are reservations 6 months in advance, and you'll want to try to get in there and book as soon as those open up. For the in-park lodging, these dates may change. They've been making a lot of adjustments to how they do things. And so definitely check the National Park Service website as you're planning your trip to just verify how far in advance you'll want to make those reservations and what the process is looking like at the time of your booking. One last tip for the South Rim: when you're booking your lodging, I personally would not stay any further out than Tusayan, which is right outside of that south entrance. Tusayan is fine. There's a lot of places to stay in there, and you're really close to the Grand Canyon South Rim, so that's not a big deal. But once you leave Tusayan and start heading south, you can head towards Williams, you can head towards Flagstaff. A lot of people stay in these areas. I just don't recommend it. You're quite far out again, and it's like an hour to an hour and a half drive to get into the South Rim from those areas. And that's valuable sightseeing time. That's valuable crowd management time. You know, if you're not driving those extra hours during the day, then you can just get in the park and get to those busy areas before it gets too busy and get parking where you need to get parking. So it just, for me, it makes a huge difference to stay in either Tusayan or Grand Canyon Village, and that is what I recommend for you. One last thing, there is a lodge at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. You have to hike, you have to take a mule, or you have to raft to this lodge. It's called Phantom Ranch, and this one is extremely competitive to get into. And so if you're interested in hiking down to the bottom of the canyon and staying at Phantom Ranch, just know that it is on a lottery system as to whether or not you'll get those reservations, and that lottery opens up 15 months in advance, and you really do have to put your name in for the lottery 15 months in advance, or you really just have no chance. So, and it's hard enough as it is, even if you get your reservations in on time and everything, it's just really, really hard to get reservations here. But so when you're looking for lodging options, just note that Phantom Ranch is at the bottom of the canyon, and you will need to get yourself there in a unique way. And so keep that in mind if that's an experience that you're wanting to have. The fifth thing that you'll want to know before visiting Grand Canyon National Park is that if you go to the South Rim, which you probably will, that's where most people go, then there is an extensive shuttle system that you'll need to use while you're there. So looking at the Grand Canyon website, you'll see there are quite a few shuttle lines here. We've got the blue one, which takes you around between the visitor center and the village area. You've got this orange one that's out here that takes you out to the South Kaibab Trailhead, which is really popular. And you've got the Hermit Road, which they hardly show you any of it on here. It goes all the way out to the end of the road, Hermit's Rest, and this one has a lot of really cool viewpoints. So those are the main shuttles that you'll want to know about, and really hone in on how to navigate the shuttle in this park. Because when you visit the South Rim, you'll basically just want to park in one spot and then take the shuttles around throughout the day. It a lot of times does not make sense to move your car between trailheads or between hotels or restaurants or anything like that, because parking is so limited and it fills up really early, and it just doesn't make sense to move your car. So get there in the morning, get a parking spot, and then plan on taking the shuttle around the South Rim. Now, the thing about the shuttle on the South Rim is that while this blue one, this one is not required for you to take. You can take it. I recommend taking it. Again, a lot of times you'll park here at the visitor center and then you'll take the blue one to get out to these areas. This is where a lot of the hotels are. This is where you'll find restaurants. The Bright Angel Trail, which is what goes down into the canyon. It's a really popular one right there. You've got the Rim Trail that kind of connects everything over here. And so typically you will take the blue shuttle to get from either the campground or your lodging over to some other areas of the South Rim. Now, where it gets tricky is that the South Rim does have 2 mandatory shuttles that you need to take to get to certain areas. And so if you don't know how to use the shuttle system, or you haven't looked at the map or the timeline or anything like that, you could find yourself to be very frustrated while you're here at the South Rim just trying to navigate these shuttles. So the first one that is mandatory is part of the orange line. You don't have to take the orange line for these areas over here. So Mather Point is a really popular viewpoint, or Yavapai Point over here. You don't need to take the shuttle. You can drive here. I don't recommend it. Again, I would just park and take it or walk, but that's not required. What is required is if you're wanting to get out here to the South Kaibab Trailhead. The South Kaibab Trail is very popular. It's one of the main trails that takes you down into the canyon. You can shorten it. You don't have to go really far down and still just have a really cool time. So I highly recommend at least starting this trail. And to get to this trailhead, you have to take the shuttle. So they have a gate down here that keeps cars out. You can't drive your car in here. So to get to South Kaibab Trailhead or Yaqui Point, you will be required to take this orange shuttle from the visitor center. The other mandatory shuttle that you'll need to take during most months of the year is the Hermit's Rest shuttle. And that's this red one out here. And so you'll take the blue shuttle to get out here and then transfer over to this red one. You can also, if you're staying in one of these hotels or if you find parking back in here, you can park and then you can walk over to this one if you want to. But let me show you kind of where you are on this map. This is a map of the South Rim. I think pretty confusing. This map is not great. But basically, so right here, here's your visitor center, and here's the Grand Canyon Village area over here. And so this is the line, the blue line that you'll take or drive. And then over here, you can barely see it, but there's this road that goes along the edge of the canyon out to Hermit's Rest. And that is where the red shuttle line goes. So it's all of these viewpoints. These are some of my favorite viewpoints in the park. They're absolutely phenomenal. You will want to see these viewpoints, but you'll just need to know that you have to take the shuttle to get out here from March through November. So that is a mandatory shuttle if you're visiting the Grand Canyon between the months of March and November, which most people are. If you visit outside of that time, if you're there from December through February, then you can drive your own vehicle to those viewpoints. But for most of us, we'll just need to plan on taking the shuttle because we'll be there during the main season in the park. My tip for the shuttle is to just make sure you know which shuttle lines you'll need to get to which places. So if you have your list of things that you want to do at the South Rim, I would definitely write down which shuttle you'll need to take to access that and really study up on how the shuttles work. Because one of the best things you can do for your South Rim of the Grand Canyon vacation is to know how to use the shuttle lines. They can get really, really busy during certain parts of the day. They can get really crowded. You can wait for 45 minutes or an hour just for a shuttle. Sometimes it gets crazy. And so knowing how to take the shuttle, which stops you'll need, when to be at certain places, when to try to catch the shuttle so you're not waiting in really long lines, that will make a huge difference in your experience at the South Rim. And again, the Grand Canyon itinerary on Dirt in My Shoes will walk you through all that. I have a whole section on using the shuttle with maps. With every activity that you want to complete, I put which shuttle line you'll need and what time I would be there. And so if you're a little bit nervous about navigating these shuttles, then definitely check out that itinerary as well, because I will walk you through in great detail exactly how to do that. So there you go. There's 5 things that you'll definitely want to know before visiting the Grand Canyon, with some of my biggest tips for navigating this area and this really awesome national park. So hopefully this has been helpful. If you need any additional help planning your trip, I will link a bunch of articles below this video, articles that I've written on the Dirt in My Shoes website that help with the best time to visit, where to go, which activities you'll want to do. All of that is there, how to get there, where to stay, all of it. And so definitely check out Dirt in My Shoes if you're needing any extra trip planning help. But I hope that this video has been helpful for you and that you have a fantastic time at Grand Canyon National Park.